I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm glad that you wore the polo. I wasn't sure if you were gonna.
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
let's do it. Let's do it right. Let's fasten
all
our
the way.
top
All right,
ones.
there we go.
There we go. Now we're in
Perfect.
the zone.
Hey everyone, this is David Stark from Watch or Pass, and today I'm joined by Chris Green, the writer and director of The Pebble and the Boy, which is releasing in the US on November 16th, 2021. We're going to talk to him in just a second, but first let's check out the trailer. And while you're watching, if you can like and subscribe to this channel, that would be fantastic. I'll spend a lot. Thank you.
Everyone, would you please join me in a toast to Phil? Once a mod, always a mod.
I was thinking we scattered his ashes.
Where were you thinking?
Brighton. It's the spiritual.
Let's get this party started! You are a mod. You are a mod. You are a mod.
Thanks so much for joining me. This is Chris Green, the writer and director of The Pebble and the Boy, which is coming to US digital and on demand on November 16th, 2021. It's an interesting British road trip drama that delves into a culture I had no background in. I assume maybe a lot of people outside of Britain don't have this this kind of a scene. So I guess the first question is, what inspired this film? I mean, I know you wrote it, so is this kind of from your own experiences or just something that you observed and like, oh, that'd be a fun story to talk about?
Well, a bit of both, really. Yeah, so just a brief update. Mods were first around in the 1960s in the UK. Dressing smart, sharp suits, riding Lambretta scooters and Vespa scooters, Italian scooters, and they wore these big green parkas over the top to keep the suits clean. And that was a scene, and there were clashes with rockers, so that would be maybe greasers in leathers, and big Triumphs or Harley Davidsons and BSA bikes. And so that was a thing, and we had bands like The Who and the Kinks, that followed on from the Beatles. And then in the late 70s, there was a bit of a revival, which is where I picked up on it. So I was a young mod. I had the parka, the button-down shirts and stuff like that. And I got into a band called The Jam. Now, I don't know if The Jam not really made it across the pond to the States. I know they went on a couple of tours, but The Jam were massive in the UK. So 4 number one albums. And their lead singer, Paul Weller, was like numero uno mod. So I met Paul very briefly. He's now a solo artist. I met him very briefly about 10 years ago after a gig in Ireland. And it gave me the idea for the film. I came away thinking about a young mod whose dad had passed away, and I had the end scenes in my mind of him scattering the ashes, and then I worked it back and gave the story, some substance.
Interesting. Yeah. So I mean, I love the connection of you just love this scene, and you're trying to figure out how to kind of bridge the gap. It almost seems like you as a young mod, maybe you were kind of wondering this as well, trying to get into this scene when it seems like it had already been established. I wonder if that was part of this kind of overall story that you were trying to tell.
True, yeah, because we were looking back and we were reflecting on what had gone before, and there was those influences, but partly because of budget and not being able to raise multi-millions of pounds, I couldn't make a period piece, so I couldn't set it in 1980 or 81 when I was a mod. So I had it, the son of a guy who was a cool mod back in the day. And so we shot it as a contemporary road movie in the UK, but with a mix of music. So mod revival music, The Jam, the Style Council, and bands like that. But we mixed it up with some new mod music as well. So we were hoping to appeal to, the older mods who lived it and have fond memories of it. And that's what a lot of the feedback is, but also try and introduce it to a younger audience who might be more akin to the road movie aspect or the falling in love aspect of the story, and things like that.
Well, it's a nice, excuse the pun, and it's a nice vehicle to kind of introduce the young generation to the music, because I hadn't heard any of these bands, but I loved the soundtrack. Like I didn't, I couldn't
great.
even pick any of them out, but I was like, this is just fun, like high energy, and it fits the time period perfectly.
Thank you. Yeah, music was a big part of the film.
Yeah, and so did you? I mean, you were in the scene, like you were in you got into a band. Did you kind of help with the music direction, or did you just have someone else? Did you have someone else help you, and then you kind of just made sure everything fit with the time period? Because it seems like you probably have the background to be able to do all this, do all the musical arrangement and choosing.
Yeah, I had pretty much free reign over the music. Although my producer Mike Knowles is a musician himself, and there are some of his music in the film. But yeah, we were really lucky. So Paul Weller is a massive artist in the UK, but he was very supportive, and we've got 4 Paul Weller composed songs on the film from his time in the Jam and the Style Council and the solo track, which is the Pebble and the Boy. So we asked if we could have the music, and people liked what we were doing, and we were very lucky to get it. Yeah, I'm absolutely thrilled.
That is awesome. I always wonder, was this a long, elaborate vehicle to get more time with Paul Weller? Because it could have also been that as well.
I must, I'd be lying if I didn't say that part of the plan was that I would become Paul's best friend and we would hang out and go out drinking. But that's never happened. I'm hoping to bump into him down the road at some point and say thank you. But yeah, he's seen the film, he likes the film, and he gave us the go ahead to speak to Universal for the music, which was great.
That's awesome. And I also love, like, it kind of comes through in this film, and from your kind of description of it, it seems like a very supportive culture, even though it's, I don't know, you probably would think it would be like punk or like a like a youth rebellion type culture. It seems like everyone who's in this space, at least in the movie and from your descriptions, is very like supportive of this entire scene, and your description of Paul Weller and kind of him allowing you to reach out for the music, it just fits with that as well. I love that aspect as well. It seems like everyone in this scene has fond memories and kind of wants to keep it going.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And that's why, it's a tiny budget film, but there was so much love from the mod community. I mean, you'll see from the very opening scenes, there's hundreds of them sat on scooters, for that opening scene. And those people came down, and a lot of them took a day off work. Nobody was getting paid, and they hung around for hours in the sun, just waiting to ride round in a circle. And yeah, they've been our core audience. And those are, we did 170 cinema run in the UK, which for a tiny little film is just unheard of. But thousands of people went out to watch it, and the feedback has been overwhelmingly that, yes, it brought back memories. Yes, we loved the story. Yes, it made me cry. Yes, it made me laugh. And we definitely loved the soundtrack. So yeah, it's hitting those buttons.
That's awesome. And yeah, so speaking of kind of the story and the film is kind of made by this cast. So how did you get these characters? I mean, you got some, I guess, probably bigger names, and then some up and coming stars. How did you kind of arrange your cast? Did you have anyone in mind when you were writing this, or were you just trying to write your own story and then people kind of came in after?
Well, we had Sacha Parkinson in mind, who plays Nikki, our female lead, and she was amazing, and she's been part of the journey for a while. I also had Patsy Kensit in mind when I was writing the older mod mum, should we say, because Patsy will be known to US audiences from Lethal Weapon 2. So she was in that with Danny Glover and Mel Gibson. So, but over here, Patsy's a bit of royalty, and she was in a film called Absolute Beginners, which itself was a mod-inspired film back in the 80s with David Bowie. So, she's fabulous. And we just sent the script to her via a casting director, and she read it and loved it. Nobody was coming along and doing it for the money. That's for true. But they liked it, and the feedback was great. And they came on board, and everybody just pitched in. Everybody knew what they were getting involved with. A little Brit flick film with a cool soundtrack. Yeah, but they make the film. I think Patrick McNamee and Sacha really carry the film, from Manchester to Brighton, literally.
Yeah, I loved Sacha. Her character was just so much fun. Like she was in my review, which I don't think I've published yet, but I put her as like she's the driving force behind this. She's the driving force behind the journey. She also kind of has a lot of crazy, just funny asides, and also she's just so much fun in the film. I loved her scenes.
As she's got spunk, as you Americans would say.
Yep,
definitely. You know, she's full of fire. She's cheeky. You know, and you know we've got a lead character who's grieving the death of his father. You know, and there's times when he doesn't want to carry on, but she literally gives him a kick up the backside to say, you know, we're doing this, and she likes him. You know, she's falling in love with him, and he's falling in love with her. So I'd be frightened of someone like Nikki when I was 19, 18, and you can see that he's absolutely mesmerized by her, you know. But I saw one review that said the police should be called on Sacha Parkinson before the credits roll because she should be arrested for that performance. You know,
she definitely steals the show.
That's it. Yeah. You've got it. I messed it up. She steals the show and should be arrested for it. But yeah, she literally does. Yeah, she was great.
And she is so needed because, like, one of the things, and I know everyone grieves differently, but one of the things with John that just I was like internally seething. I was like, they're all trying to help you. Why are you so opposed to their help? And I know that grief is weird and he's going through some weird emotions, but you know, Sacha was definitely needed to push him along and keep the journey going. Yeah,
and she does. Because otherwise it'd be a short and it wouldn't be a feature film because he'd have turned around. It's when we got to Stoke.
Yeah, he gets to Stoke. He breaks down, just takes a taxi and leaves the bike.
The end. Yeah, we wouldn't have heard half as much music.
And so, you know, the dress, the scooters, all that stuff are kind of crucial to this film. So it sounds like you had some help from the mod scene with extras. How about the main scooter and some of the main outfits? Was that from your personal collection? Did you just kind of have people in the mod scene help out with things they had around? How did you kind of arrange this? Because I know you didn't have much budget for this movie. Yeah,
so we, again, a lot of love. We had Parker's donated offers of scooters, but people were offering us scooters, little realizing that we were going to smash them up on Brighton Beach. So we had to inform people, you know, who've got these beautiful scooters from 1960s that, you know, are worth £10,000-15,000. Yeah, we'd love to take your scooter, but we'll bring it back in little pieces. And then they weren't so keen. So we bought the lead scooter that's now in a garage somewhere until summer next year that we'll bring it out again. But we were blessed in that we had some great sponsors. You'll notice that the modern scooters in the film, they were sponsored by Scamadi Scooters, who donated those scooters to us and also helped us with the film. Wow. And I'd say 85% of the clothes in the film were from a company in the UK called 80s Casual Classics, who basically are the biggest online retailer for all the cool stuff. So Fila, Adidas, pretty green clothing over here, which is Liam Gallagher's company from Oasis. So yeah, they were great, you know, and I got a few pieces myself. So I've got more mod pieces after the film than I did have from before, because I've now got a couple of scooters and loads of cool gear.
Hey, well, you know what? If anything comes out of this film, at least you've got some cool swag. So.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I'm glad I'm not glad, but I'm glad that you mentioned that the scooter, you know, was going to get destroyed, because when he laid that down, I was like, oh, because I used to ride a motorcycle, and that's the one thing you never want to do. And I imagine the scooter is the same way, because it's tough to recover from that. So when that scene happened, I was like, I bit my lip when that happened.
Yeah, it wasn't. Sorry, I'm just looking at the dog. She's just I'm just looking after her while my wife was out. Yeah, no, we had not death threats, but not far short of it. When people saw the some of the behind the scenes photos that went up on social media here in the UK, some of these mods were sending messages like, "How dare you treat her like that? How dare you treat a scooter like that? Pick that scooter up. That's disgusting." And we were like, guys, it's a film. You know, like it could be a Trans Am in Fast and Furious. You know, these are good. We understand your love for them, but then that does show the love that they have for these scooters. So yeah, and you'll know, having a motorcycle, that once we picked it back up, it wasn't really playing ball anymore for being ridden about.
Yeah.
You know, petrol spilling out on the beach, and yeah, it wasn't the best, but
But you know what? Now it has a little bit of personality, I guess.
Absolutely, it does. Yeah, and another thing that we did. So we shot it out of sync, as you know, it happens with films. So we shot it in Brighton, on the south coast in the UK, which is the mecca for mods. You know, it has a big pier and everything. So when we got the scooter out of the van for day one of filming, there was all these mods came down, turned out to be extras and stuff like that. But the story is obviously the scooter is smashed up. So I said, "Can we borrow a hammer?" So I got a hammer, and then I started smashing the mirrors in and the scooter, and they were all like, "Whoa, what are you doing?" You know, they were like wincing, and they were like, "Oh." It was like, you know, I don't know. I was hitting a family pet. You know, it was, but it had to be done for the story. But yeah, they were really not too pleased.
You are a brave person, because that could have turned into a scene from the movie. One of the
It
fight
could
scenes.
have, yeah. It could have, yeah. It's a good job we had cameras recording at the time. So, but yeah, they were, you know, they're not in their early 20s. These guys anymore. They're all in the 50s and the 60s. So I might have been able to outrun them.
There are some tough looking folks in that film.
Absolutely, yeah. Some grisly looking guys in that film.
So it sounds like you had, you know, like a good core supportive cast and support from the community and support from kind of the mod scene. Did you have all like an arrangement for the film in line while you were making it, or did you kind of get the film done and then go try to pitch it? I guess what was the process to then get the film into theaters? Because you mentioned it was in like 170 theaters in the UK, which I agree is insane for a small indie film. So how did you kind of take that next step?
Well, we were small, but we like to think we were professional. So we already had Lightbulb Film Distribution lined up to help us with the film, and I'd seen another small film over here, because there was another scene called Northern Soul, which, you know, is heavily influenced by, you know, soul music from the US, you know, in the 70s. And we had a Northern Soul movement here, similar to the mod movement, you know, people going to all-nighters and dancing and to cool soul music. And I used that as a template because a film called Northern Soul had come out about 5 years previously. And I saw that they'd use this particular film a company called Monroe Films, and they brought this film out, similar budget, big social media presence, which we've got, you know, we've got like 31,000 on our Facebook page, and they really pushed it, and it was successful. So I thought, well, they might be able to do that for our film. So literally sent them a copy of the film, and they said, yeah, we like it, we think we can do something with it, and we just pushed it on social media, and people were going to watch it. And there was a lot of cinemas that did like little events. So they did like a mod night. So you go to the cinema, and then in the next room, there would be a DJ on and stuff like that, playing music. And one of the bands from the film in their hometown, they played an acoustic set before every screening. So that boosted the numbers and stuff like that. So the community really rallied and came out and, you know, made an event of it, and, you know, more than just a film. So that's where the success lies. Yeah,
that is awesome. And also it's kind of fortuitous that this film is coming out at a time when it seems like the world is opening up again, because you can have those types of events. You can have, like you said, a acoustic set before. So it seems like the timing of this film coming out is just perfect.
Well, it wasn't planned, but it has been quite fortuitous in that we were due to finish the film in 2019 and go back and do some pickups and stuff. But obviously COVID hit, and it put everything on hold for literally 12 months for us. And we had this big event planned in Brighton. They were going to do a big exhibition, the mod exhibition with the Jam and bands like that. But that didn't happen. I was really upset about that. But when cinemas did start opening up and we had a film ready, you know, cinemas were like, well, we need content. What's out there? And so we were like, well, here's our little film. And they were like, okay, we'll take it. And, you know, so the timing has been great. Like you say, people can now sit in cinemas. I don't know how long that'll last, but
it changes every day, you know, but at least for now.
It does. at least for now. Well, our cinema run's finished now, so we're okay. And people in the US from today can watch it in their own homes, you know, because it comes out on digital over there and in Canada. So we've got a lot of US supporters and a lot of Canadian supporters on our Facebook page who have been dying to see the film. So fingers crossed the feedback's good and they enjoy it.
Fingers crossed as well. And so in the US,
Fingers
we had drive-ins, which kind of had a brief revival during this whole lockdown. Do they have similar things in the UK? I could see like a fun mod like event where everyone gets their scooters up to a drive-in and then kind of have a festival of it. Is that something that you have in the UK?
Well, we do have them, and we're thinking about some for the next summer, because we've had one in Manchester, a proper drive-in, open air. We can guarantee the weather because Manchester is famous for always being raining. I'm looking out the window now and it's raining. it never seems to stop. And so I suppose they'll have the Parkers on and the hoods up. But yeah, a drive-in movie is something that will maybe on the anniversary of the release of the film. We're definitely looking to do it. Yeah.
That sounds great. So I know we have limited time, so I'm going to switch to, I call it the lightning round. It's just lightweight questions about the film, see how your experiences map to things that happen in the film. You can feel free not to answer any of them. I will not be offended at all, but I try to keep them very answerable. First question, and I think the answer is many. Do you have a scooter?
I do now. I've got two. I've got the two from the film. Although I have owned scooters in the past, but yes, I've got two.
And the next question was going to be how many mirrors does it have? But I think if it's the one from the film, it has like what's 8, 10,
18. No, I think there's 8. I think it might have 18, 20.
So the film is about a boy kind of wanting to take his father's ashes to scatter them in a place that was special to him. Where do you want your ashes to be scattered?
Well, my daughter's already talked about scattering my ashes in Brighton now. Now that the film,
is that good or bad?
Because, well, as long as it doesn't happen soon, that's fine. But we all went down to Brighton for the film premiere. My wife, my daughters, my grandson, and they started talking about that. They said, "Oh, yeah, I think it'd be lovely to do the same for you, Dad." It gives us to come Brighton on the cards.
Yeah, well, yeah, it did seem like a lovely place. So there you go.
It was beautiful. It's beautiful.
Do you have any similar interests that your dad had?
Music. So my dad, because my dad passed away when I was 15. Obviously, that's an influence on the film.
Yeah, I can see that.
And there are little bits of John, me and John. But my dad was a singer. My dad loved Frankie Lane. So, and he was a singer, and I like singing. I think I can hold a note. So yeah, my dad was a truck driver, and although I've driven a few trucks, I've never taken it up as a career. But I do have his love for music.
Yeah, you got some part of it, and at least the music seems to translate pretty well. So, have you ever taken like an impromptu road trip? No,
I'm far too boring, David, and too lazy. I'm not really spontaneous or impulsive. And when we're going to Brighton for the premiere, it's a 6-hour drive, and I'm like, should we have just done it in Manchester? So yeah, but I like it when I get there. It's just the traveling. So yeah, not really for me.
Did you drive, or did you get in a little like mod scooter train to get to Brighton?
We drove. Yeah, we just drove down in the car. Yeah,
it seems to be all image, not.
Yeah, it is. There's no substance. There's no substance. So in the 60s and the 70s, so every bank holiday in August, bank holiday Monday in August, all the mods converge on Brighton. Even this year, thousands there.
Oh wow!
And they used to ride. They'd ride from Scotland, which is right at the top of the UK. And they'd take days getting down there, or some brave souls would do it in a day. But yeah, nowadays they do them in the backs of vans. They get to the outskirts of Brighton, get them out, and then ride them in.
I mean, that's a smarter thing to do, right? Less romantic, but definitely smarter.
especially when you're 65 or 70, probably a lot more. No tents strapped to the back of the scooter and things like that.
Yeah, no, I had a sport bike when I rode, and I could maybe go 20 miles before I was like, oh, this is not very comfortable.
I'd be exactly the same. Yeah, my scooters, I've never gone more than a 25-mile radius from my home. Yeah.
Have you ever had your picture in the newspaper? And maybe it's recent, maybe with this film coming out, you have.
I have quite a lot actually. Yeah. When I was very young, and my dad had just died, I went off the rails a little bit, and I wasn't a football hooligan by any stretch of the imagination, but we went to a football match with Manchester City, which is the team that I support, and I did run.
Wow, I don't want to have to stop the interview right now, but
don't tell me you're a Man United fan, David.
Glory, glory, Man United.
Yeah, oh, no. So anyway, when we were in the old second division in the 1980s, we were getting beat at halftime, and I ran on the pitch being an idiot.
Oh,
and,
that's awesome.
And a police officer on a horse grabbed me around the neck and led me off. And this photographer popped out and took loads of photos of me. And it was literally in every UK newspaper. So all the big red tops. And my mum was like mortified, just this picture of me being carted off the football pitch. So that's my first experience of having my photograph in the newspaper. But
that is a fantastic story, though. I mean, like, bad decision, but really great story. So it
is. You know, my mates still have copies of it, and I have a copy of it somewhere. And I'll see it on social media sites popping up, and somebody will go, "Oh, I know that guy. He's my best man at my wedding," sort of thing. You know. And yeah, it was embarrassing at the time, but I didn't get arrested or anything like that. It was just a bit of teenage frustration. I didn't punch anybody.
Yeah, and you know what? Who knows if this was the reason that Man City has now, become, I'm going to begrudgingly say, probably the best team in England. Who knows if that was the reason, but it could have been, right?
I'd like to think I was a little part of it. Yeah. Yeah. I'm going next week. We've got PSG.
Ooh.
And we've got Mbappe, we've got Neymar, and we've got Lionel Messi coming to town next week.
That will be a challenge, but
just a bit, yeah.
I'm conflicted because I want England to do well in the Champions League, but I don't want Man City to do well. So I'll be neutral. I'll be neutral.
Well, fair play. You'll enjoy a good game, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And the last question, that was a fantastic answer, but I do have to ask this last question. What is the farthest you've traveled for a concert?
Ireland. So Ireland is the furthest, yeah. So we it was Paul Weller in 2009. Me and my wife flew over to Cork in Ireland and spent the weekend there, and it was a brilliant gig in a big marquee. And then I met him the following day, and then that was the idea, the genesis of the Pebble and the Boy, which was great. So yeah, that's the furthest. History. And the rest, as they say, is history.
So the film is already out in the UK, and it's coming out in America today, November 16th, when this gets posted, probably a couple days ago, but it's out now, so you can watch it in the comfort of your own home. It's on digital and VOD. You're promoting the film. What's next for you? Do you have other stories you're trying to write, or are you just going to try to... Oh, there we go.
We're riding this wave at the moment, which is great, and speaking to lovely people like yourself who are supporting the film, for which I personally very, very grateful. So thank you. We're doing a Britpop film. So, so Britpop was almost a version of mod, in the early 90s. So, we had Oasis and Blur and the battle between those two bands. So I've written a film set in that era, featuring two rival fans. One's an Oasis fan, one's a Blur fan. It's a bit of a comedy cop caper. It's a bit like 22 Jump Street, but without the budget.
There you go.
All the sunshine. Yeah.
All the fun, half the budget.
That'd be a treat, yeah.
Well, awesome. I'm excited to see that. And I love that you're kind of merging your love of music, and especially British music, with film, because it leads to some very interesting stories. So thank you so much for joining me. This is Chris Green, the writer and director of The Pebble and the Boy. Thank you so much.
I really appreciate it, David. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
All the best.
That was Chris Green, the writer and director of The Pebble and the Boy, which is coming to digital and on demand in the US on November 16, 2021. It's a fun British road trip drama that has a lot of heart and delves into the mod bike culture in the UK. If you like this interview, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.